this Futfemreflect International video. Today I'm with Kristina, who is going to tell us all about growing up playing football in
USA?
the USA. How did you first get into football?
I just started playing when I was young, so maybe like 4 or 5 years old, and yeah, just kind of in my like local town, we had like a rec league, I guess, like YMCA, which is kind of like a local kind of thing. But yeah, just kind of kicking the ball about and like running around, like everyone following the ball, stuff like that. But
Yeah, that's how it
yeah.
is.
Yeah, it kind of just grew from there, my love for football, and then slowly like got into more competitive teams and stuff that were both like in my local area and then a bit further from that to travel around and play kind of more competitive football.
So when you were growing up playing football, like, because I know when I spoke to Cora about this, she said that it was kind of like the done thing for a girl, like you would play football, it wasn't out of the ordinary. Was it the same for you?
Yeah, I would say so. I think football's like one of the most popular sports in the US for girls, I would say. So yeah, it was something that like I think oftentimes when you meet somebody, everyone was like, oh yeah, I used to play like football when I was young, whether it's like boy, girl, whoever.
Really?
Yeah, so it might be something that everyone just like starts out with as like a sport, but then yeah, whoever wants to keep continuing with that, it's definitely like possible.
At school, did you have many opportunities to play?
Yeah, at school you could play, I guess, in like gym class, like PE. We had like school teams. So that was from like middle school, which is maybe like preteen kind of times, until like high school you could play.
Tell me about then your experiences playing club football. So you started at quite a young age and you said it got more selective. Tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah, so I probably started playing like club competitive football maybe around like 12 years old, I would say. And so I kind of had started with like my local team. So when I like was growing up, that's like in my town and stuff like that. And then I wanted to go to like a better team. So I, tried out for teams in like kind of my, I guess, still like local area. So I'm from Long Island.
Okay.
And so my town is Huntington, but then I kind of expanded out further. Yeah, just players would come from kind of all over the island and stuff to play for the teams.
So by that point, were you traveling quite a lot to play?
So we would go kind of like in our local area, New York State, as well as like go further and stuff like that as we got older, because there were more tournaments and kind of showcase things to get, if you wanted to play in university football, you would want to get recruited.
Okay, so you just touched on university then. So tell us about your university experience with football.
Yeah, so I ended up playing, so I was kind of recruited to go play university football at Yale University. And so I think that was a really good experience, really challenging in the sense of like balancing like university work and football, but really rewarding and something like I had worked towards for like a long time. Like growing up, like I decided like I really love football and I wanted to keep going further, and university level, at least in the US, is kind of like the next highest level that you can play at. So most people who want to play like a higher level, you go to like university, and sport like football can be a way to get to do that. It wasn't always the easiest time for me personally, but I found my teammates to be really amazing, and yeah, the games that we played really great.
When you say about balancing football and uni work, like was football, I mean, I can't compare it to here, because here for us, football's like you do it on a Wednesday afternoon and you train 2 times a week, but I'm guessing it was quite different.
Yeah, just a little bit different. Yeah, I think basically it's your main extracurricular activity, but so like you would practice, every single day of the week, basically.
Wow.
So Monday through Friday, and even on the weekends sometimes. But usually that's when we had our games on Friday or Saturdays.
Okay.
So then on the Sundays it would probably be a rest day or recovery kind of training session. But yeah, we would train every single day of the week, maybe like 2.5 hours, I would say. And then we'd also have like gym sessions, so like performance conditioning sessions. So maybe like 2 times a week or 2-3 times a week. So yeah, it definitely can take over a lot of your life.
Wow.
And it's like what you basically would do in the afternoon. So I guess like at Yale, how it's set up, most classes would finish by like a certain time. So then you could play your sports in the afternoon and stuff like that, because they kind of recognize that balance. And so yeah, but it kind of is like the main thing a lot of people do, and so it oftentimes takes up a lot of time and energy, and you don't really have, I guess, the space to do other extracurriculars.
Like your university work.
Yeah, university work or whatever, if you like other things. But also, like, I think the structure is different, because here, where, you know, at Edinburgh, for example, it's like all like student led. I would say, like, it's a club. Like, we have a president, you know, a different committee and stuff like that, and the students are really the ones leading it. In the US, like with universities, the coaches are, you know, paid by the university.
Okay.
So it's very much like a top-down kind of system. So as players, you don't have as much say. Like, you're really following, I guess it's more, I guess, towards a professional kind of sense in that way, because, you know, the coaches have a certain, you know, standard or approach, and you're trying to, you know, day in and day out impress them so that you can make the squad.
How would you compare your experience at university playing football in the States to here in Edinburgh? Because you do your masters and you did your masters and now you're doing your PhD here in Edinburgh. How do you compare football?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple ways to compare it. Like, in terms of intensity, I think I was just mentioning, like, it's definitely not the same. Like, whereas we do have, you know, 2 or so training sessions per week, and then we have our games on Wednesdays. But it's not the same. I guess there are definitely expectations that you're supposed to, you know, come to training and stuff like that. But it's not the same as like in America, where it's like when we did have like 5-day-a-week trainings and, you know, the games and the strength and conditioning, like, you had to be there. Like, you weren't like you could not miss like something, like, basically for no reason, or it had to be a very firm reason, and usually it had to be like academic related. It couldn't be like anything else, like your friend's like birthday. Or I think something that I really enjoy about being at Edinburgh is just I'll have a lot of fun. Not to say I didn't have fun there, but like I think fell back in love with football by coming here, because I had a lot of stress from playing at the university level in America, and then so coming here, it was kind of just like, I'm doing this for me, and it's just like because I love the sport so much, and so I think being here has been really great for that. And I think in terms of like playing level competition wise, it's still competitive, like playing in the Scottish leagues, and then, you know, now with the first team we play in, like the Northern Premier League kind of side, which is tough, but yeah, we try our best.
How would you compare then the level of football, like tactical football, in the Northern Prem, which you play with here in Edinburgh, to the league you're playing at Yale?
Yeah, I think it's just a bit different, like in terms of playing styles. Like in America, I think, because we have so much training, and, you know, people, like a lot of the girls, for example, who have been on the team, like, are quite similar stories to me. Most people like were playing all their life, kind of thing, playing on these club competitive travel teams, and kind of were recruited for these positions, and then have gone to university to play that sport. And so I think in terms of that, like, people are, I guess, maybe a bit more competitive overall. And I think in terms of like actual playing style, that kind of comes across as very like high pace, like pressure, like athleticism, very focused. Whereas in the UK and even at Edinburgh, like, I think we do a lot more in terms of like tactics, or kind of like some of the players in terms of their skill levels, like, you know, touch on the ball or passing range or things like that, I think might be even better here and stuff like that, because people might not have that necessarily like athletic training or bursts or things like that, but they have like the ball skills and they have the football IQ and knowledge, and so I think that lends itself to something different, and like kind of makes up for maybe lack of like certain athletic traits that people have or things.
How is women's football regarded in America and US?
I think it is regarded pretty highly. I think in terms of women's sports, at least. I think, especially with like the US women's national team, with them winning 4 World Cups now. So they have given a really high profile to the sport, and I think just especially in like maybe since like the, what was it, 2015 World Cup, I think. That kind of just like when they played like Japan for the first time, they had, you know, they beat Brazil as well with Abby Wambach's header, which is amazing. I remember watching it in my basement. But great times. But I think that kind of really kind of got people excited in the US about the sport. And I think since then it's really kind of grown tremendously in terms of like, I guess, profile, like media wise and stuff. But it still has like a long range to go, I think, especially compared to like men's sports. I think a disadvantage maybe in the US is that there are so many other professional sports like basketball, baseball, American football, ice hockey, and so there's a lot of competition in that sense already in terms of the male-dominated kind of sports in that sense. You know, we do have women's leagues for some of them, but in terms of like the big superstars in sports, like it's very much male-driven.
Two things on that. Firstly, like, do you think that you've seen the impact that the World Cup, like the success of the World Cup has had on women's football?
There's so much kind of American pride for like the women's team or like on the national scale, because that's when like football, soccer is really like showcased. And so I think girls, when they're able to see that kind of this kind of amazing event that can be put on and seeing like the success of these women is definitely inspiring, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think it's so important that literally like you can't be what you can't see, and the girls, like, to have those role models on TV, like, see that they can do that. It's the most important thing. It seems that in countries, in places like the US where men's football is not it's not the main sport, it's not a massive sport, that allows women's football to flourish. And then in countries like here in the UK, where men's football is like the holy grail, women's football struggles. Don't you think that, like, if men are dominating that sport, then it's harder for women to get in? Whereas in the US, where men don't dominate football because their sports are like baseball, basketball. Once the men have kind of backseated sport, it's so much harder for us to get in on it.
So I think, in the US, men's football is not as big, especially compared to all the other sports at the moment, though it is growing. And I think part of that has been maybe due to the women's football. I don't know if that's the case, like I don't have any studies for that, but I think by more like people seeing, you know, the profile that these sports can have, and kind of also as well like men's football from other parts of the world, like the UK, like the English Premier League, like that being kind of more shown in the US now, like with different streaming services and TV services and stuff like that. Like people kind of see that a bit more, and they are like, oh, I want to be a part of that, whether that's men or women and stuff like that. And so I think, it's kind of going back to that, you know, seeing is believing. Like if you think that option is there, then you're going to go for it.
Yeah, definitely. Right, final question. This is always the most important question of all. What does football mean to you?
Hard to sum up in just a few words, so I'll try. But football, I think it just means so much to me. You know, it's something that I love so much, and has taken me to so many amazing places and parts of the world through, you know, playing with a team, you know, whether that's coming here to the UK and, you know, playing in Scotland, or that's, you know, traveling with other teams to play in places like Spain or Portugal, like just going around the world and, you know, having that opportunity to meet people who are from all different like walks of life and cultures, and maybe don't even speak my language, but or I don't speak theirs. But it's something that we all have in common. Like we love this sport, and it kind of transcends any kind of boundaries in that way. And even if you don't play, like you can watch and like you can see, someone's wearing like a football kit, and you're like, oh yes, like you have some solidarity there and stuff. Or unless they're a team that you don't like. But I think it just means a lot, and I think it has given me so much, like personally, like I've developed a lot in so many ways, I think, in terms of my personal skills and like communication and teamwork and all of that, as well as, you know, it's given me so many friends. And I think that's probably the thing that I love the most, is I've met people who are, you know, have changed my life in so many ways. And so that's something that you have to thank a sport for. And maybe people wouldn't get that if they aren't into them, but it is something really special, I think.
Yeah, definitely. what would you say to any girls or women that are thinking about giving football a go?
I would say do it. Definitely go for it. I mean, football, I think, can be very forgiving in some senses. You don't have to be the best player in the world. Like, you just run around and try to kick a ball into a goal. Like, it's fairly simple when you think about it that way. And even if you don't end up playing, in a full game or anything, but just kicking it in, your garden, in your backyard, or just getting together with friends. I think definitely just try it, because it is a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you can spread your wings like.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks so much, Kristina. This has actually been such an interesting interview, so I've absolutely loved it. Been very interesting. So thanks.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.